that is, does it serve to activate and promote thinking? When you start looking at the things that you're doing, the types of lessons, the type of planning, is it purposeful and does it activate thinking? And then reasoning and justification, does it have only a few steps? And so it says it has 2 steps and it exactly hers. First, provide an answer and then a justification. And is it easy to learn and scaffold? Can it be used over and over again? So when you're looking at some of those things you're doing, and especially when we talk about differentiation, we need to look at that. Can it be scaffolded? And I've seen that done so well. I've seen, certain kids, they only do a little part of the 4C, and they put their little sticky note with everyone else's, or they have one specific thing they're looking for, so they can still work within the group. So that is another part that we probably need to look at when we're looking at assessing. How can you scaffold this for your students, especially those that are overwhelmed with the 4 C's?
And it just sort of naturally scaffolds. I mean, yes, think in advance, but I've found that it gets to the point where you're almost doing it without realizing you're doing it. And the kids are picking up on the pieces. So at this point in the year, the kids that I gave smaller bites to back in October, I can give bigger bites to now. They may still not be able to do the whole thing, but they can do more than what they could do at the beginning of the year.
And the one very powerful thing that it goes on to in this whole part that I was reading is it said that the word why dominates everything. Why are you teaching it? Why is it important? Does it go across context? And I think I've alluded to the fact that we have some people that are going to help us with the tiered vocabulary for next fall. And that is really one of the key concepts in that tiered vocabulary. A real important vocabulary word is one that is used across a wide variety of contents. Because if you target those words, you can build and build and build upon them more so than just some of those that are just randomly, which you would be surprised at how random some of the selection of vocabulary words are in our basal readers or whatever. So I think that why dominates everything, going back to why they need to learn it. Any questions so far? Okay. Wow. All right. All right, that was page 96. Let's go on to this question that was, I think, I don't know that I have a page for this one, but let me just read it. It says, but was the routine effective? After all, didn't students get more confused by listening to each other's arguments? And that is something that made me stop and think, because I've heard that. Are they getting confused because they listened to all of this? What are your thoughts on that? Is it more confusing when you open up that discussion for them and they listen to all these different opinions and arguments?
I don't think so, because that's not what the tug of war is. And maybe the tug of war is like a constructive argument. And I think sometimes it gives them that moment where they go, oh, I didn't think about it that way, or, oh, yeah, that's right, because that will do it that way, or it won't do it that way, or,
it has to be controlled.
Yeah.
Or it goes off of.
yeah.
I think it plays into the tug of war. You can do it like the after fact, and then you can do it like, okay, has your opinion changed? And then I think that they can go back and forth and allow them to come up with another reasoning. Like Kim said, that way they're like, oh, I didn't think of it like that. So
Right.
it just broadens the horizon of what other ways that they could have thought about.
Yeah, and I think you were talking about being controlled and moderated is important too, because I have been in some of those observations where it's kind of gone in a different direction than I think you thought it was going to go, and you're kind of struggling as to how to get it back on track. So that's something that you're going to have to develop. And also one thing I've seen, and it's it's not just in pretty much across the board, is not everything is acceptable as correct. How many times we say, oh yeah, that's a good answer, when it was a completely wrong answer, and I'm sitting there going, no, and I know you want to praise them, and I know, okay, they're participating, but there also needs to be that, okay, thank you for your thought, but I'm not sure you're thinking the
That's
right
where
way.
why could come back in.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's where it could open up for the opportunity for them to learn to verbalize, why did you say that? Well, why are they saying that? I mean, maybe it is totally confusing to the group, it's totally out of the box, but possibly they knew what they were trying to say, and they, you know, it may open up a passage for them to learn to communicate.
Yeah, I think when you did your popcorn type thing one time, some things came out and we were like, wait a minute, what do they mean? And it was, she probed some more to think, okay, why did that child say that? Because it didn't make any sense to me. And sometimes just that opportunity to go, how are they thinking and why did they answer that way? Gives you a little more opportunity to see, okay, are they totally off in a different, or their thought process just really is.
They're connecting
Connecting
with
something
that's
different.
internal to them,
Yes.
and
When
we're
you
like,
don't get the connection.
Yeah.
what?
Miller?
What?
Because there have been some of those moments, and I've seen some on your faces. You're like, what is that? Get out of there. But there again, that probing, and don't feel afraid to probe, and don't feel afraid also to say, okay, I respect your opinion, but I think let's think about this aspect and try to push them in a different direction.
Do you know what I've learned with my little ones too, is when you ask them why, probably most kids, they want to go, but if I use what I hear Heather say all the time is, what makes you say that, then they'll answer, but if you ask them why, they go,
A lot of
So
times
if you
what
change
makes
your
you say
verbiage,
that can ease it out of them.
yeah, because I think the why word scares them. Why did you do that? Why did you hit that child? Why? So now when you ask them why, they're like, they're scared to really answer, but if you reword it,
Yeah.
I find they're more likely to actually give you their thoughts rather than be scared that they've done something wrong.
Right, and thanks for that. I know when we said the why dominates, but I think it's more the thought process of why am I presenting this? Why am I? But your verbiage, definitely. And you learn that with little kids how many times. I know one of the first times when I was assistant principal, and I'll be like, well, why did you hit him with the lunchbox? And Patsy would look at me like, don't go there. Don't go to the why, because the answer is always I don't know. You have to start learning to ask those questions that are past that why, because most of the time they don't know why. They just did it. It was just it was fun. I was just So yeah, I think it is the verbiage again.
Because I know, like when I'm doing my lessons, I find that they are more communicative if I don't use the word why, but use more what would you say that. I've even used it when there's been incidents. It's like, what happened that made you want to hit him with your lunchbox? And then they'll tell you. But if you say, why did you hit him? I don't know why I hit him. My hand just went up and did it. But even in some of these questionings with lessons, it goes the same way where.
And something that Luke has helped me do, I reached the point where I'd been using the same template for a long time, lesson plan template. And I really reached the point that I felt like to ask the why, in terms of why am I teaching this, and what is it going to look like, how's the lesson going to unfold, that I felt like the template that I was using just wasn't as effective. And so Luke helped me put together a template that included through lines, the ongoing whys in terms of what we're covering in social studies and reading and so forth, and then the burning questions that you wanted to include, along with the objective, and then the thinking routines that you might want to include. And that's really helped me in terms of planning. We can send out the empty templates, the blank templates that you've got it, but that's something that going into next year that I'm thinking about in terms of planning. What do my lesson plan template, what does my template need to look like, so that as I'm planning my lesson, I can plug in the routine, plug plug in the objection.